She walked into the office with red eyes and a resignation letter in her hand. Everyone thought she was weak, even she did. But when the CEO looked at her and said just one sentence, everything changed. What he said next will shock you. Stay tuned because you are about to watch a beautiful story and find out what happened next. Hello family, welcome to Tales by King. Kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more beautiful stories. Thank you as you do so. Sit back, relax as we dive into the story. Clara stood outside the tall glass building, staring at the reflection of herself in the door. The building was called Harrison and Company. It was one of the biggest companies in the city. People dreamed of working there. People fought for interviews there. But Clara felt like a stranger in a place she had given 3 years of her life. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying all night. Her lips were dry. Her hands were shaking so badly, she had to hold her bag with both hands. Inside that bag was a single piece of paper. Her resignation letter. She had written it at 2 a.m. Then she tore it. Then she wrote it again. Then again. 5 times. Each time, she tried to be polite. Thank you for the opportunity. It has been a pleasure working here. But none of those words felt true anymore. The truth was simple. She was tired. Every morning, Clara woke up before 5 a.m. She took 2 buses to work. She arrived before everyone else and left after everyone else. She fixed reports no one wanted to touch. She stayed late when others went home. She answered emails on weekends. But her manager never said thank you. Instead, he said things like, "Why is this late? You should be faster. This is not good enough." Even when she did everything right. Last month, Ethan Harrison, the CEO, had announced a new promotion. A project manager role. Clara worked harder than ever because her manager promised her the position. But yesterday, she found out the truth. The promotion was given to someone else. Someone who barely showed up. Someone who took credit for Clara's work. That night, Clara went home and sat on her bed for 2 hours without moving. She didn't cry at first. She just stared at the wall. Then the tears came. Slow. Quiet. Heavy. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered into the dark room. Now she was standing at the entrance of the same building that once made her proud. And it felt like it was crushing her. People walked past her, dressed in suits, laughing, talking on phones. No one noticed the girl who was about to give up her dream. Clara wiped her face with her sleeve. "I'm done," she said softly to herself. "I tried. I really tried." She took a deep breath and walked inside. The air in the lobby was cold and smelled of coffee and perfume. The floor was shiny. The walls were white and clean. At the reception desk, the secretary looked up. "Good morning, Clara." Clara forced a small smile. "Good morning." The secretary looked at her face more closely. "Are you okay?" Clara hesitated, then nodded. "Yes. I have a meeting with Mr. Harrison." The secretary blinked. "The CEO?" she asked. "Yes," Clara replied quietly. The secretary looked surprised. "He doesn't usually meet staff without an appointment." "I know," Clara said. "But I sent an email last night." A pause. Then the secretary checked her screen. "He accepted," she said slowly. "He's expecting you." Clara felt her heart drop into her stomach. She didn't think he would reply. She didn't think he would care. The elevator doors opened. Clara stepped inside alone. As the elevator moved up, her hands started shaking again. She looked at her reflection in the mirror. Her eyes were tired. Her hair was messy. Her face looked small and broken. "This is it," she whispered. "The end." The elevator stopped. The doors opened to a quiet hallway. At the end of the hall was a large door. Ethan Harrison, CEO. Clara stood there for a long moment. She held the letter tightly. Her fingers were wet from sweat and tears. She raised her hand. Knocked. "Come in," a calm male voice said. Clara opened the door and walked into the office. The room was large and bright. Glass windows. A clean desk. Bookshelves. City view. Ethan Harrison was sitting behind the desk, focused on his laptop. He looked up, and the moment he saw Clara's face, he froze. Before Clara could even speak, her lips trembled, her eyes filled, and in front of the most powerful man in the company, Clara broke down in tears. Her shoulders were shaking. Her lips were pressed together, trying to stop the sound, but the tears kept falling. Ethan Harrison slowly stood up from his chair. He had seen many things in his life, big deals, angry investors, confident workers, even people shouting in meetings. But he had never seen anyone cry like this in his office. Not like this. "Clara," he said gently. Please sit down. Clara didn't move at first. She felt embarrassed, ashamed, weak. I'm sorry, sir, she said between tears. I didn't plan this. I didn't mean to cry. Ethan walked around the desk and pulled out a chair for her. It's okay, he said softly. You're safe here. Those words made something break inside her. Clara sat down slowly, holding her bag tightly like it was the only thing keeping her together. Ethan sat across from her, not behind the big desk anymore. He wanted to be closer, not as a CEO, but as a human being. What happened? He asked quietly. Clara tried to speak, but her voice failed. So she took out the letter from her bag and placed it on the table between them. Ethan looked at it. The title was clear. Resignation letter. He didn't open it. He looked back at her instead. You came here to quit? He asked. Clara nodded slowly. Yes, sir. Why? Ethan asked. That simple word, why, was the hardest question she had heard in years, because no one had ever asked her that before. Her voice came out small. I'm tired. Ethan waited. So she continued. I work hard. I try my best. I stay late. I help everyone. But I'm always treated like I'm nothing. Her hands started shaking again. My manager blames me for things I didn't do. He takes my ideas. He talks to me like I'm stupid. Her eyes met Ethan's. And yesterday, the promotion I was promised. Her voice broke. It was given to someone else. Ethan's face changed. Who promised you the promotion? He asked calmly. My manager, Clara replied. He said if I worked harder, I would get it. Ethan was silent for a moment. Then he asked, Did you ever complain? Clara shook her head quickly. No. I didn't want trouble. I didn't want to look weak. Ethan leaned back slightly. So you stayed quiet? Yes, Clara whispered. I thought if I stayed quiet, things would get better. They didn't. Ethan looked at her with something close to regret in his eyes. I know your name, Clara, he said. She looked up, surprised. You do. I've seen your reports, Ethan continued. I've read your emails. I've noticed how often your name appears in successful projects. Clara froze. No one ever told me that. Ethan smiled sadly. That's the problem, he said. Good people often work in silence. Clara felt her heart tighten. Then Ethan said the words that shocked her. Stay. She blinked. I'm sorry. Stay with me tonight, Ethan said calmly. Clara's eyes widened. She stood up immediately. No, sir, I didn't mean. Ethan raised his hand gently. Not like that, he said quickly. I mean stay and help me. She slowly sat back down. I'm working on something important, Ethan continued. And I need someone I can trust. Clara was confused. You want me? Yes, Ethan said firmly. You. Clara stared at him. But I came here to resign. Ethan looked straight into her eyes and said quietly. Before you leave this company, I want you to see what you couldn't see before. Clara swallowed. What do you mean? Ethan picked up the resignation letter for the first time. He didn't read it. He placed it back on the table and pushed it gently toward her. Don't decide today, he said. Give me one night. Clara felt something strange in her chest. Hope, fear, curiosity, all mixed together. For the first time in 3 years, someone important was asking her to stay. Not because she begged, but because she mattered. Clara wiped her cheeks slowly. Oh, okay, she finally whispered. One night. Ethan nodded, like he already knew she would agree. Good, he said. First, take a breath. Clara inhaled deeply, then exhaled. Ethan stood up and walked to a small cabinet in the corner of the office. He brought out a bottle of water and a clean tissue box. Here, he said, placing them close to her. Thank you, Clara replied, her voice still shaky. Ethan glanced at his wristwatch. It's almost 6 p.m. Most people will leave soon, he said. I want you to go back to your desk and take only what you need. A notebook, your laptop, anything important. Clara blinked. Sir, are you sure? She asked. I don't want people to misunderstand. Ethan's eyes stayed calm. Let them misunderstand, he said. Truth will correct them. Those words made Clara's heart beat faster. She stood up slowly. I'll be back, she said. Ethan nodded. I'll be waiting. Clara walked out of the CEO's office and stepped into the hallway. The whole floor looked different now. In the day, it was loud with footsteps, phones ringing, people rushing. But now it was quiet. As she entered the elevator, she noticed her hands were no longer shaking as much. But her mind was spinning. Why would the CEO ask me to stay? What truth does he want me to see? She returned to her department. Most workers were packing their things. Some people glanced at her. One lady raised her eyebrow like she wanted to ask questions. Clara avoided eye contact. She quickly picked her laptop, a notebook, and a pen. She was about to leave when she heard a voice. Clara. Her body tensed. It was her manager's assistant, Sandra, standing with crossed arms. Sandra was always close to the manager, always smiling around him, always acting like she owned the office. "Where are you going?" Sandra asked, looking at Clara's laptop bag. Clara swallowed. I have something to do," she replied. Sandra smirked. "Something to do at this time," she said. "Or are you running to the CEO again?" Clara's stomach twisted. "I'm not running to anyone," Clara said quietly. Sandra leaned closer, lowering her voice. "Don't make the mistake of thinking you're special," she whispered. "This company eats people like you." Clara's eyes burned again, but she forced herself to stay calm. "I'm done being eaten," she replied, then walked away. Sandra's smile dropped for a second, but Clara did not look back. When Clara returned to Ethan's office, it was already darker outside. The city lights had started to glow through the glass windows. Ethan had removed his suit jacket and rolled up his sleeves. His tie was loosened. He looked like someone who had been carrying heavy things for too long. "You're back," he said. "Yes," Clara replied. Ethan pointed to a smaller meeting room inside his office. It had a round table, comfortable chairs, and a quiet atmosphere. "Let's work in there," he said. "This is not a CEO meeting. This is a real one." Clara followed him in. As soon as she sat, Ethan opened his laptop and typed something. A few seconds later, a printer in the room began to print papers. Clara frowned. "What are those?" she asked. Ethan picked up the pages and placed them in front of her. "These are internal records," he said. "Reports, reviews, feedback, and private complaints." Clara's eyes widened. "Complaints," she repeated. Ethan nodded. "Yes," he said. "Some people in this company have been hurting others quietly." Clara looked down at the papers. Then she froze. She saw her name. Clara Evans. She turned the pages quickly. Her name was there again. And again. Her heart started beating fast. She expected to see bad things. But what she saw shocked her. Clara saved the team during the last deadline. Clara is the most reliable person in the department. Clara deserves to lead projects. Clara works like 3 people. Clara's mouth opened slightly. "Who wrote these?" she whispered. Ethan's voice was calm. "People you helped," he said. "People who noticed you, even when your manager tried to hide you." Clara's eyes filled again, but this time it was not pain. It was something else. Relief. Because for 3 years, she had started to believe she was worthless. But these papers were proof. She was not the problem. She never was. Clara looked up slowly. "But my manager always said I was slow. He said I was not smart enough." Ethan's face became serious. "He lied," Ethan said. "And he made sure you never saw the truth." Clara's fingers trembled as she held the paper. "Why would he do that?" she asked. Ethan leaned forward slightly. "Because he was afraid," he said. "You were rising, and he couldn't control you." Clara felt a chill. Then Ethan opened another folder, thick and heavy. "This one," Ethan said, tapping it, "is the part you need to see carefully." Clara swallowed. "What is it?" she asked. Ethan looked straight into her eyes. "The proof," he answered. "The reason I told you to stay." He opened the folder, and Clara's whole body went still, because on the first page was a signed document that showed her manager had been taking credit for her work, with emails attached, and dates, and clear evidence. Clara's hands flew to her mouth. "Oh my God," she breathed. Ethan's voice was low but firm. "Yes," he said. "It wasn't in your head, Clara." Clara stared at the papers like she was looking at a different world. Then she whispered brokenly, "So all this time?" Ethan nodded slowly. "All this time," he said. "You were doing well." Clara's tears fell again, but they were quiet now. Not tears of weakness. Tears of truth. Ethan leaned back and said something that hit her deeply. "You came to my office to quit because you thought you were failing." He paused. "But you weren't failing, Clara." He pointed gently at the folder. "You were being buried." Clara stared at him, breathing hard. And in that moment, she understood. This night was not about work. It was about her life. And as Ethan turned the next page, he said quietly, "Now, let me show you what I did today." Clara's heart pounded, because she had no idea what was coming next. Ethan slowly turned his laptop screen toward her. On the screen was an email. The subject line read, "Internal disciplinary action, immediate effect." Clara leaned closer, her eyes scanning the page. It was addressed to the company board. Ethan scrolled down. Clara saw her manager's name. Then she saw the words that made her breath stop. Termination of employment. Her fingers tightened around the chair. You fired him?" she whispered. Ethan nodded calmly. "Yes," he said. "This afternoon. After I confirmed everything." Clara's body felt weak. Her manager, the man who made her life miserable for 3 years, was gone. Just like that. "But what about Sandra?" Clara asked softly. She knew everything. She always protected him. Ethan clicked another file. Another email appeared. "Sandra has been transferred to another department," Ethan said. "She will no longer work near you." Clara closed her eyes slowly. For the first time in years, she felt like she could breathe. Not because she won, but because the truth finally mattered. Ethan leaned back in his chair. "I should apologize," he said. Clara looked up, surprised. "For what?" she asked. "For not seeing this earlier," Ethan replied. "For letting good people suffer in silence." Clara shook her head gently. "You didn't know," she said. Ethan looked at her seriously. "That's not an excuse," he said. "It's my responsibility." There was a long, quiet moment between them. The city lights outside reflected softly on the glass walls. Then Ethan stood up. "Clara," he said, "I didn't ask you to stay tonight just to show you the past." He walked to his desk and picked up a folder. "I asked you to stay because I want to talk about your future." Clara's heart skipped. He placed the folder in front of her. On the cover was written, "Project Manager Appointment." Clara's eyes widened. She opened it slowly. Inside was an official letter. It had her name, her full name, Clara Evans, Project Manager. Her hands started shaking again. "Sir, this must be a mistake," she whispered. Ethan shook his head. "It's not," he said. "This position has been empty for weeks." "But I thought," Clara began. "You were told it was filled," Ethan said calmly. "It wasn't. Your manager only pretended." Clara felt dizzy. "All the projects you handled," Ethan continued. "All the teams you supported, you were already doing this job." He smiled slightly. "I'm just making it official." Clara's tears fell again. But these were different. They were not sad tears. They were tears of relief, of validation, of finally being chosen. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. Ethan's voice was soft. "Say yes." Clara laughed weakly through her tears. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I will." Ethan extended his hand. "Congratulations, Project Manager Evans." Clara shook his hand. And in that simple moment, her life changed. The next morning, the office was full again. People walked in with coffee and phones. But something felt different. At exactly 9 a.m., an email was sent to all staff. Subject, departmental changes. Clara's name appeared on every screen. People whispered. Some stared. Some were confused. Some were shocked. Then Ethan walked into the main hall. He stood in front of everyone. "I want to introduce your new project manager," he said. "Clara Evans." The room went silent. Clara felt every eye on her. She stepped forward slowly. Her legs felt weak, but her heart was strong. Ethan continued. "Clara has shown dedication, honesty, and leadership. She deserves this role." The room slowly filled with applause. Some clapped because they respected her. Some clapped because they were surprised. Some clapped because they were afraid. But it didn't matter. For the first time in her career, Clara was not invisible. After the meeting, people came to her desk. "Congratulations. You really deserve it. We always knew you were different." Clara smiled politely. But inside, she remembered every night she cried alone. Every time she doubted herself. Every time she wanted to quit. She walked back into Ethan's office later that day. He looked up and smiled. "How does it feel?" he asked. Clara thought for a moment. Then she answered honestly. "It feels like I finally exist." Those words stayed in the air between Clara and Ethan. Ethan looked at her for a moment, then smiled softly. "You always existed, Clara," he said. "You just weren't seen." Clara felt her chest tighten. For so long, she thought her pain meant she was weak. But now she understood something different. Her pain was not weakness. It was silence. And silence had finally been broken. 6 months later, the same glass building still stood tall. But Clara no longer felt small inside it. She walked through the lobby with calm steps, holding a tablet in her hand. People greeted her as she passed. "Good morning, Ms. Evans." "Morning, Clara." "Project manager." She still smiled every time, not because of the title, but because she remembered the girl who once stood at that same door with a resignation letter and shaking hands. Her department was now the strongest in the company. Projects were finished early. Teams worked in peace. People felt respected. Clara listened to everyone. She never shouted. She never took credit for others. She always remembered how it felt to be invisible. And because of that, people trusted her. One evening, after a long but successful day, Clara stayed late to finish a report. She looked at the clock. 7:30 p.m. The office was almost empty again, just like that first night. She stood up, stretched, and walked toward the window. The city lights were glowing. Then she heard a familiar voice behind her. "You still work too hard." Clara turned. Ethan was standing at the door, holding 2 cups of coffee. She smiled. "You started this," she said playfully. "You taught me." Ethan walked closer and handed her 1 cup. "Fair enough," he said. They stood near the window, sipping coffee in silence. Not an awkward silence. A comfortable one. "You know," Ethan said slowly, "the day you walked into my office crying." Clara looked at him. "That day changed more than your life." Clara raised her eyebrow. "How?" Ethan sighed softly. "I built this company to succeed," he said. "But I forgot that people are the real success." He looked at her. "You reminded me." Clara felt her heart beat faster. She had never thought of herself that way. Someone who changed a CEO. Someone who mattered. There was a long pause. Then Ethan spoke again, this time more quietly. "I asked you to stay that night because I needed a good worker." Clara nodded. "But you stayed," he continued, "because I needed a good person." Clara swallowed. "And now?" she asked softly. Ethan turned to face her fully. "Now I'm asking you to stay because..." He hesitated. "Because I don't want to do this life alone." Clara's breath caught. The city noise felt far away. "Ethan," she whispered. "I know I'm your boss," he said quickly. "And I know this is complicated." He smiled gently. "But I also know what I feel." Clara looked into his eyes. Not the eyes of a CEO. Not the eyes of a powerful man. But the eyes of someone honest. "I almost left this place," she said. "I almost gave up everything." Ethan nodded. "And I almost lost someone important, without knowing it." Clara smiled, tears filling her eyes again. But this time, they were not tears of pain. They were tears of gratitude. That night, they walked out of the building together. Side by side. Not as CEO and employee. Not as boss and worker. But as 2 people who met at the lowest point of one life. And turned it into the highest point of 2 lives. Clara looked up at the building one last time. The same building where she once came to resign. The same door where she cried. The same office where she felt invisible. And she realized something beautiful. She didn't walk in that day to quit. She walked in to be found. And sometimes, the moment you think your story is ending, is actually the moment your real story begins. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you find this story worth watching. If you do, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more beautiful stories, like, comment, and share this video to your friends and loved ones. Your support and engagement encourage me to post more videos. Thanks for watching.